What up, folks? It's your boy Chicago, the handsome liberal, coming to you once again out of the work van on the road. This one is about Gavin Newsom. California Governor Gavin Newsom. It looks like he has indeed survived yet another attempt to recall him. This time he was going up against an African-American conservative talk show host, Larry Elder. You'll see him on Fox. You'll see him in a lot of conservative circles, but he was actually trying to replace Governor Gary Newsom to head the state of California. Gavin Newsom has survived this. So what does this mean? What does this mean for people who live in California and for those abroad? It means something to both. But before we do that, I'm going to ask you to do what I always ask you to do. For those who watch and don't subscribe, come on, help your boy out. It doesn't cost you a penny. Hit that like button. It helps out the analytics of the channel. If you don't like this shit, go ahead and feel free to hit the dislike button. Just asking you to do me a solid. So Gavin Newsom survives in California. So what does this mean? Well, it means a few things. First of all, if you are a California resident, it kind of really means business the same as usual. You've had Gavin Newsom in there for a few years and you voted for him to stay. So if you're a California resident, you obviously thought the current Governor Newsom was better than the potential alternative, which was Larry Elder. Also, Bruce Jenner, or Caitlyn Jenner as she goes by now, she was also on a ticket, but Larry Elder was going to be the primary challenger. And yeah, so California residents voted to keep Newsom in. So if you're a California resident, it's kind of business as usual. Now, if you follow right-wing circles, Fox, Newsmax, OAN, any of the conservative shows, California is a shithole. It is a mess. There is a lot of open homelessness in California. Kind of makes sense because the weather is very nice. I've often said, if you're going to be homeless, why not go somewhere where you can survive out in the open? California is probably one of the best states in the nation to do that. So people go, well, why the hell would you keep Newsom in there with all the homelessness in California? Well, and this is something I've said before, if you really want to use poverty as a measure to cast a ballot on, you would probably think that most governors, particularly in the South, are ineffective. Because when you look at the top 10 states in America where poverty reigns the most, California's not even in that shit. It's mostly Bible Belt states: Louisiana, West Virginia, Tennessee, Mississippi, Alabama. All of the states where, Republicans go, well, liberal states are fucked up. Well, poverty-wise, Republican states got a hold on that shit. Because all of that Bible Belt stuff down in the South, the original slave states and all of that shit down, that stuff is very, very poor. It's so that's the first thing I would say when it comes to those who say that Gavin Newsom should have been thrown out because look at the poverty. Second thing I would say is that everybody in California is not doing bad. I mean, let's just be real. Most of Hollywood is still there. The entertainment industry is still there. And there are still plenty of wealthy people living throughout California. So the homelessness and things like that, it's prevalent. There's no doubt. It's all, around the downtown streets of Los Angeles. I've been there and seen it. Certainly in a lot of suburbs, the Comptons and all of that, you just see blocks of freaking tents, shopping carts, and everything that normally is associated with homeless people. It's really unsightly. Now, my first question would be, what would a Republican governor do? What are you going to do? I mean, like I said, because I'm naming a lot of states, Tennessee, West Virginia, things like that, that are far more impoverished than California. So what would a Republican governor do to quell the homelessness in California? My guess is he would do what we normally do in America for homeless people. We outlaw them. I don't know if you guys follow the news a lot, but a few years ago, there was a lot of homelessness in Nevada. And they just went in there and tore down their fucking tents and things like that and told them you're trespassing. If you're living in a wooded area, they came and said, look, you're trespassing, and they kind of shoot them along. That didn't mean the person has a place to stay. It just means people who are doing okay don't see them anymore. And that's kind of what we've normally done with homelessness, is we kind of swept it out and pushed it out. My guess is they would do the same thing if someone like Larry Elder won as governor in California. He would have probably done the same thing. Not necessarily going to give him a job or give him a check. Just going to outlaw him. You know, if you're going to sleep on the street, then we're going to make it against the law and you'll be sleeping in jail. That doesn't help the person out one bit. So from that standpoint, I don't know if Larry Elder would have done any better as governor. But here is the kicker. What does this mean if you live outside of California? Well, if you are liberal, such as the handsome liberal you're looking at, the handsome liberal right here, if you are liberal, it means that the influence of Trump, which is probably our biggest issue, thing we quell over, our biggest fear is the return of Trump. Oh no, no more Trump. Trump derangement syndrome, as the right wing would call it. It means that the influence of Trump is getting weaker. Because this is probably the third election that I can think of, third big election, national election, even though it was for the governorship of California. California going red has national implications, just like if Texas goes blue. It has national implications because when you think of liberals, you think of California. When you think of Republicans, you think of Texas. Those are like the strongholds, the most populous states. California is the most populated state in the nation. Texas is obviously, a really big state, very close up there. So if you flip the politics of one of these states, it's going to have major issues are going to come out of that are going to affect politics all over the country. So with Texas staying blue, like I said, this is the third major election, national election that I can think of where Trump got involved, or Trump's name was involved in a candidate that was very closely associated with him or promoted by him, lost. And I'll tell you, right after the presidential election in 2020, remember we had the state of Georgia had to do basically a runoff to determine if two Senate races there were going to go blue or red. Trump got strongly involved in that, trying to keep the Senate red, and both of the candidates down there lost. So, meaning Georgia, for the first time probably in my lifetime, went blue. Went blue. So that's the first major election that Trump was involved in that went the opposite direction. Second one is he went down to Texas and strongly promoted a congresswoman down in Texas. Once again, the other candidate won. Now, it wasn't a flip from red to blue. It was another Republican candidate running against his candidate, but he lost. And now you got Larry Elder, which I'm going to say the Newsom team, the Newsom campaign did a really good job of tying into Trump. They pretty much painted him as, if you let this guy win, it's like putting in a small Trump over the state of California. And as a result, I've seen lots of interviews on television with people being asked who they were going to vote for, particularly Hispanics, and a lot of them were like, Newsom isn't the best, but, we put this guy in, he's going to be just like Trump. And a lot of Hispanics, particularly those coming from Central America and I won't say South America, but Mexico on down, for the most part, those Hispanics are anti-Trump. They don't like Trump. And the reason I'm bringing up the geographic area, because Cubans are very much pro-Republican, but that's a different conversation. But in California, there's not a lot of Cubans. You're talking more Mexicans, Guatemalans, Nicaraguans, Panamanians, all of those folks that are coming from the region I'm talking about, and they despise Trump. So implications wise, if you're outside of California, you don't live in California, if you're against Trump, you're a liberal, like the handsome liberal. This is a big win. It's a big win. It's mainly because it's showing that Trump's popularity is not growing, it's waning. Now, I'm not going to say it's waning a lot, because the Republican Party is still strongly pro-Trump. But he's not gaining any new people. He's not gaining new followers. And keep in mind, he lost in 2020. So the only way to win is to gain new followers. We can criticize Joe Biden all we want, and some of that criticism is justified. But it shows that the liberals are not losing people like that. They're not, I mean, they were able to, in a state like California, and I'm not bragging about the way California is ran at all, they were able to keep Gavin Newsom over a strong right-winger like Larry Elder. They do not want that there, and that's, that's a plus. Now, I would also say the anti-abortion law down in Texas, a lot of liberal states that might have considered flipping red or even going purple would look at something like that. There's no way California residents would want anything to do with a law, an anti-abortion law that is as tough as it is in Texas. And I'm bringing that up is because just like I mentioned, when the state flips from red to blue or blue to red, that's the type of shit that follows. There are several states that have already stated that they're going to do what Texas did. Arkansas mentioned it. I think Oklahoma said they're doing it in Ron DeSantis down in Florida. California is not the type of state to do that type of shit. But Larry Elder has made it clear he supports that. So it's things like that. I believe there's a clip floating around that, it's not rumored, it's an actual clip of Larry Elder on the Candace Owens show. She has a YouTube show, and he's on there saying that if anybody should get reparations, white slave owners should be considered for reparations, because at the time slavery was legal and they lost their property. They were wrongfully, alleviated of their property was wrongfully taken from them. So white slave owners should also be considered in the conversation for reparations. This is an African American saying that, but he's saying it as a Republican on the Candace Owens show. And that doesn't help. That just doesn't help at all with any of the black voters in California. Once again, it's something I often talk about when it comes to Republicans, is that a lot of their methods of running the country are not bad at all. The economy under Trump wasn't a problem with it. The military under Trump was doing fairly well. But when they get involved in these social issues is when they fuck up. And this is a perfect example. Why would you even say some shit like that at all? It's not going to get you any more voters or any less voters, but it's going to make you look horrible. Even as a Caucasian person saying something like that, someone as evil as a slave owner should get money for losing the right to control and own people. They should be considered to get money for that. But as a black guy, it makes you look like a traitor and all types of other. So I don't even know what else to say when you have somebody say something that is that reprehensible. But yeah, like I said, if you are outside of the California area, this means that liberalism is not dying anywhere near as much as a lot of the right-wing circles want to make you believe. Because same thing in, Illinois, they show Chicago all the time. It's a shithole. Where they're doing that. In Chicago, it's the crime rate. You hear them hammering over and over again. In California, it's the poverty. But California also leads the nation in things like liberalism at universities and colleges. Feminism. These things this is where a lot of that stuff comes out, because like I said, you have Hollywood, you have the entertainment industry there, so they can easily do a PSA. They got the studios, they got all the left-wing actors and actresses, and so a lot of liberalism comes out of California. Keeping that state blue is very important to liberals, and flipping that state red would be huge, colossal for Republicans. If they could get Gavin Newsom out of there and put Larry Elder in there, that would have been colossal. I never thought it was going to happen. The polls were constantly saying that Larry Elder had no chance, but this is one of those cases where they probably should have tried with a more moderate candidate. This is what happened in West Virginia. The Democrats, West Virginia is a traditionally red state, and they currently have a Democratic senator in there. First one in a very long time. But he doesn't really vote with Democrats on much of any damn thing. In fact, big $1 trillion spending bill that Joe Biden just tried to push through failed because of, I think his name is Manchin, coming out of West Virginia. But because they got a Democrat in there, but he's a very moderate, right-leaning Democrat to some degree. That's probably what would have worked best in California as opposed to somebody like Elder. It's putting in a very moderate Republican. Not someone that is bombastic like Trump, talks a lot of shit, does a lot of insulting. You just, really no one associated with Trump is going to be, you need like a Mitt Romney type guy, you know, a more softer Republican. Right now, the Republican Party don't like those type of guys, though. They like the bombasticness of Trump. And as the handsome liberal would tell you right now, I'm predicting that is going to be their downfall. Trump is already planning on running in 2024, and he's already on doing rallies across the country, referring to Joe Biden as the sippy cup president. America's made it clear they don't want the insult to the name calling, and he plans to run by doing exactly that. I'm not talking about his policies at all. Notice I'm not bringing his policies up because his policies were not that bad. But in regards to the name calling, the bad tweets and things like that, even the most passionate Trump supporters readily admit, you know, you got rid of bad tweets to get a president that sucks. That's their motto. You got rid of mean tweets to get, you know, Joe Biden, who's a feckless president. Well, they're admitting that the tweets and the insults are what cost him the job. And he's trying to run a campaign doing the same damn thing again. So good luck with that shit. So anyway, like I said, this means that liberalism is not dead. It means that there is hope. I think the midterms, liberals are going to be in trouble. But as always, it's the presidential election that means the most. I really question if Joe Biden is going to even attempt to run a second term. It'll be in his early 80s, 82 or so. So that's a whole different video for a whole different time. But if you want to comment on that in the comment section, I would love to hear from you. But yeah, Gavin Newsom has survived and will live on in California and around the nation. This means a lot for liberals. We have kept the bluest state in the nation blue. That's all we wanted to do. We wanted to keep the bluest state in the nation that often leads in regards to liberal policies the way it is. So, mask mandates, the way we handle COVID, because Los Angeles became the second largest school district to require children to be vaccinated. Kids over 12 have to be vaccinated in Los Angeles County. That's not going to fly under a Larry Elder government. It would not immediately. Larry Elder would have came in and prevented that shit. Gavin Newsom did not. So once again, from a liberal standpoint, we support masks, we support vaccinations, we trust the science. The Republican Party, some trust the science, some don't, but none of them want it mandated. No mandates of masks, no mandates of social distancing, don't close anything, and absolutely don't put vaccine in people. Just leave it up to the citizens to deal with COVID how they will. So that's what would have happened in California most likely under a Larry Elder government, because that's what's happening in most Republican states, is they're leaving it up to the citizens. If you don't want to wear a mask, you don't want to social distance, you don't want to close things, you just want to go throw a party and all hang out together, that's fine. And if you notice, that's where all of the COVID is. That's where all the hospitalizations are coming from. So thank God from that aspect, we did get more Gavin Newsom, and liberalism has survived. So what do you guys think, folks? Where do you think I'm messing up at? What do you think? I understand you don't like liberalism. You don't like Gavin Newsom. You don't like California if you're a right-winger. That's a given. It's totally understandable. It makes sense. But what was the alternative? I just told you what was going to happen. Tell me where I'm getting it wrong at. Anyway, it's your boy, Handsome Liberal. I'm going to go ahead and end this right here. We will talk again sometime soon.